You would think so, but SK Gaming, they come up with these ideas and strategies to counteract what Pittsburgh Knights are throwing at them. This first pick, Arthur, in game number 2, was adjusted by picking the Morrigan in the solo lane. Belair going for Warrior's Blessing was a great pickup. It's difficult to really poke out a Morrigan when she has that kind of range stacking up, getting that 40 health every 10 seconds, and then the double dodgy ultimates, finding that one pick onto Deathwalker, preventing him from being as aggressive as a King Arthur would like to be.
I'm glad you didn't take my bet because I would have lost it. I'm just saying that one. So maybe next time you should take it.
You're welcome.
Oh,
no, I'm just looking out for your own well-being. That's what it is.
Totally looking out for his teammates for once in his life. Pittsburgh Knights ban out the Naja, and then SK Gaming ban out the Freya. 2 more bans on the table. PK thinking about it. Naja has been consistently banned throughout the first 2 games of our SPL season. So has Freya.
Last game, it was the Fenrir in the second slot for Pittsburgh Knights. SK Gaming banned away the Shibalankie. I expect it to be a similar case, although I'm not sure how much of a fan SK Gaming are for Fenrir. Maybe this is the time where Morrigan might be first picked for Pittsburgh.
It's certainly possible. Neirumah has always had a very interesting god pool. So Fenrir and Naja, very meta right now, but certainly historically kind of strange in the unorthodox is the better word in that support role. King Arthur is available. We'll see if Pittsburgh Knights go for it one more time. Deathwalker didn't exactly super shine on it last game, but that does not mean it's a poor selection, and I agree. I'm glad to see the King one more time.
Now, the thing was, I agree that Deathwalker wasn't highlighting the true capabilities of King Arthur, but by picking Morrigan for Pittsburgh Knights, I don't think they have prepared against King Arthur the same way SK Gaming have. So this is looking like a complete run back from game number 2 so far.
Well, here we go with the Morrigan and Artio selected for SK Gaming. Artio notorious for dealing with King Arthur the way virtually no other character can. So the Artio is a nice selection, especially against the Changeling there. Puch and Hachiman again here for Pittsburgh Knights. They played the Puch in game number 2, and it certainly worked out for Zyrhoes. I did like that one. So no need to change what's going on here. Option over to SK as they finish up the first half.
Puch was very popular at the last World, specifically out of Splice's Moswell. Loving to play this god. Good offensively, even better defensively whenever you're thinking of ways of diving that backline.
And with that in mind, as Daji is selected again for SK's jungle, Puch, Pittsburgh Knights have been, again, I've said it a number of times, they've been under the thumb of SK. They haven't been able to get off to a lead. So if you're anticipating to be playing defensively, I think Puch is a fantastic look.
Yeah, and I'm still surprised that this is a dodgy pick yet again. I said it during picks and bans in game number 2 that I would have loved to see a Serket after secondary ban phase in game number 2, but this time around picking the dodgy before secondary ban phase where that was a Jingwei instead.
Right.
I think that Zapman is not going to have the Jingwei this game if Pittsburgh Knights stops his momentum.
I like the dodgy here, and I like it especially in the wake of game number 2. I think that the dodgy ultimate is very powerful. I mean, it's Ares on a stick, right? It's a great tool, but what we saw out of SK Gaming was a lack of patience. They were a little bit too quick on the trigger to really jump for that ultimate, and now I think this is easily one of those games where you go, all right, we had the right strat, we just did it wrong, try again.
That's a good point that you make about their patience, because that's kind of what happened in game number 1 towards the end of it. And also, after they got the 13-minute Fire Giant, when they made that aggressive tier 2 dual lane tower siege, the way the double dodgies worked together was in the middle of the tier 2 tower. And that's when Zyrhoes' Puch prevented any follow-up from the Powwow. So, yet again, picking a dodgy into Puch, you're not going to be able to follow up from that Powwow. Whereas if you were Serket, you'll just kill the Puch by yourself, and you allow your other teammates to just keep standing wherever they are positioned.
See, that's the thing, is that I think with better positioning and better timing, I don't want to say decision making, it's such a wide statement, right? Better timing and better positioning, you can follow up on the dodgy. That game we didn't see it because of, I think, flat-out mistakes.
Sure, it's more difficult to execute that kind of a strategy, whereas if you have 2 Serkets, you can only Aegis one last breath. You're not going to be able to Aegis the second one, so it becomes a lot easier for SK Gaming to dive that backline.
Totally right there on the money as we see the Jingwei banned out. Again, Habwa banned. Even if you think a pick is going to the mid lane for SK, I think you always have to ban the Evo. It is just it really is just that scary for Paul to really have that in his wheelhouse. But you did bring up something interesting that I want to reiterate. You said that, you know, Paul hasn't been Paul.
I agree. I think that he needs to play a highlight character that he's been known for. Ullr, Habwa, Kronos, Hell, even a Thoth a little bit. Like, these are his top 5. Raijin, I think, can easily sneak into that top 5 position, but Paul has been kind of playing the facilitator, just kind of, or waiting to follow up from his front line, which is fine, but that's not what SK Gaming are known for, or at least these players from SK Gaming.
Sylvanus will be selected here for the Knights, and Arachne again likely to be locked in here for Mr. Adapting. Certainly worked out last game, loved it.
Complete run back for Pittsburgh Knights.
No change. I mean, it's interesting. They've proven with this composition specifically that they can play from behind, they can play from ahead. Yes, just select it and we'll see what happens. Don't forget, they've got 3 games to burn. Well, 2 games to burn if this doesn't go their direction. The Vulcan. There's something to be said about sticking to your guns when you're in a losing position, but totally, again, I have to question this choice 3 games in a row.
Well, maybe we'll see Paul make these highlight plays as long as the Daji is a little bit more aggressive in the early game. That conjunction needs to happen in the mid lane as fast as possible. Don't allow Zyrhoes any comfort on this outwash.
It's tough, though. Daji, not exactly a level 1 character, so to she really needs that power to build that passive, and the hot hands is more of a hi-rez. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's very item dependent, so asking that early game, especially across the way from the bug, I mean, Arachne, you just don't, you literally, the strategy against Arachne is no strategy. Walk away. That's how you deal with her. You just don't go there.
Well, as long as you know where that Arachne is, then you can fight everyone else besides Adapting. That's had a remarkable set so far.
Oh, well, you also can't fight the King Arthur.
You could fight the Arachne. Well, so far, SK Gaming have been fighting the King Arthur. Both solo laners last game had difficulties in certain stages. It just comes down to their positioning. They weren't as tanky as they seemed to be with their builds. I think that if you overextend too far forward, you're going to get punished for it.
We are ready to go into game number 3. Pittsburgh Knights looking to close this one out early. Into an aggro. Ready, set, go.
Well, the real question is what has SK got planned? Because this really is, in all sense of the word, a salty run back. Only one change in the lineup between the 2 teams, and that is going to be Zap not being able to play the Jing Wei. He's going to be on Rama this game. But in a weird way, it's the same sort of defensive attitude that Jing Wei is going to bring you. SK believed then, going into the set, aggro, at least in Game 3, that what they made mistakes of in Game 2, they can correct, and they have this composition that can beat that composition that Pittsburgh Knights have.
I agree. Like I said, I think that a lot of what happened last game is that there were just 2 fights back-to-back that Zyrhoes lived where he shouldn't have, and if that gets cleaned up, SK's got a real shot. However, I would have liked to see a Kernanos instead of the Rama. I think that Wild Hunt is exactly what you need to kill this King Arthur easily in these fights.
Zyrhoes trying to poke out Neirumah, and Adapting going to help him. Neirumah's still trying to slow down the speed buff, but look at the left-hand side as this is still going on. Don't need to go over to it, but there's a proxy farm going on with EmilZy and Vo clearing the wave early, and Deathwalker doing the same thing Neirumah was doing at the buff of SK, but SK have got theirs already. Meanwhile, Neirumah is leading them on a merry goose chase around the jungle.
What is happening? Finally, Adapting uses the web, and
out of there.
Out of there. I think, maybe not.
No, his teammates. Oh, the spiders for the win. Adapting's like, okay, thanks for first blood. He didn't get his speed, though.
He didn't get his speed, and this time, because Sam goes aggressive to try and help out Neirumah, EmilZy and Vote successfully get the enemy purple buff. Now, this sets Paul ahead instead of Sam in this instance, but you can see the level of experience with this strat. Instead of going for Deathwalker, Sam and Paul say, we are getting the speed. We hope. And if we don't, then at least we can move on and start farming. Whereas Adapting and Zyrhoes chase Neirumah on this wild goose chase around this rock. And if that ends up being positive, then that's fine, but now it's Deathwalker in a lot of trouble.
Deathwalker was trying to teleport there, wasn't allowed to at all, stunned out by Belair, even though the blue buff was stolen away. Not enough for a kill just yet, but it will build a hell of a lot of those potions, as Deathwalker has to walk back at level 1 still towards his own tower.
Belair gets a little bit ahead because, again, he's around the map farming a little bit more efficiently. Zapman not playing the Jing Wei this time around. I love that ban from Pittsburgh Knights, not just because it's what Zap's been playing, but it's because he's been playing it so well through those first 2 games. Get him on something else. Just make him take a heat check on Rama instead. I think that's the right idea.
Neirumah, though, on the right-hand side, still level 1. Going to box against Deathwalker and adapting and look to take away the blue buff. Deathwalker pressured out as Belair rotates in as well. Neirumah escapes the clutches of danger and falls back.
I think Neil got that blue buff,
It looks
actually.
like it, yeah.
Hit him over to level 2. This is just the adapting frustration factor. And it's not because it's adapting, it's because who wouldn't be frustrated with the enemy support just running at me over and over and over again?
And I think that's what SK have come into this set thinking. If they can keep adapting on the back foot and keep him annoyed, frustrated that things aren't going his way, maybe they can try and mess up the comms of Knights a little bit, force some people out of position. But Knights haven't really fallen for that. They've changed their game plan.
Now a red buff invade for Pittsburgh Knights goes their way without any sort of contest from Sam for Soccer. Can't get in to that fight with any sort of safety.
And this adaptation on the left-hand side, you can see how Knights pressured the duo lane. They stole away Zap's purple at the start, proxied the wave. Now with the red buff, they're looking towards the purple, but expecting SK to be here. And quite rightly, they were, to make sure that Zap gets some more of that experience. Neirumah still level 2, but will soak a bit of experience off the purple buff.
And Neil is willingly missing that experience on purple by standing there. He could have rooted and swung a little bit to the left to make sure that he gets some of that XP, but he's not. This isn't the part of the game where he's trying to catch up yet. He kind of does this through the first 4 levels or so, and then has a dedicated effort to hit the same point as EmilZy as close as he can, level 5 through 7. That's where you'll see Neil really start to soak XP really consistently. He lets Sam and Zap split that purple just 2 ways instead of 3 to try and keep those 2 up.
A lot of poke going out between the 2 there. EmilZy couldn't find the route or the pull that time round, so Neirumah gave as good as he got, but Votes basics on the mark to whittle him down a little bit more so. Horrific versus Sprint between the 2 supports. Now obviously it will change things up with how Neirumah's been playing this at the start, so the Horrific can cause some problems for other lanes, knowing that he doesn't have to deal with the Guardian's Sprint in the opposite role.
That's why I love this Arachne pick, because that extra movement speed when you're on the web, you don't care that much about the Horrific. You still have kill potential on that chase, and I think that's why adapting is stuck with this Arachne. You need to pick someone who can actually box with the Guardian at level 1. And Guardians, you don't think of them as the really early game focused characters, because so many times you see the players pick the ability that clears the wave the best, but they can fight really well at level 1.
Adapting clears the wave. Oh, sorry. Paul clears the wave, but Adapting was there around the back. Aegis already down, and the burst potential's too much. The Aegis did not buy him enough time at all. Don't even think Beats would have helped there either. Just positioning, rotation from Adapting around the back, and Paul's dead.
That's what Arachne does best, and this is perfect timing right as red buff spawns, and that's where you have to be extra wary of getting ganked. If red buff's about to come up, you know Adapting's going to be pathing towards it, and if he's on the right side, well, he can only path by going through your lane.
This is the first time Knights have had a lead at the start of the game. The first 2 games of this set so far, it's been SK Gaming that had the advantages. But now Knights have changed it now. They've seen what SK have thrown at them 2 games in a row. They adapted in the duo lane. They pressured the speed buff a little bit. Made sure that Neirumah wasn't as much of a problem as he was previously. And now it's up to SK to work out how they deal with this from a deficit this time.
I think it's twofold. It's number 1, they've been playing against the strategy a little bit more, and so they're starting to work out how to beat it. But secondly, it's getting into the rhythm of competitive Smite again. It's week 1. This is set 1. Don't forget that. And so the Knights really, they're so worried about what SK is doing to them and how to combat it. And then they go, wait a minute. They've got Vulcan, Rama, and Da Ji. We have Arachne, Puch, and Sylvanus, and Hachiman. These are much better early game gods. Why are we on the back foot? Let's just take their buffs and see what they do. And all of a sudden, SK goes, don't do that, please, because we can't. They can't fight it. They just can't.
Fight around the queue, and Deathwalker ate more than he bargained for there from good old Belair. Dodgy pull will not bring him in, unfortunately. There, Deathwalker escapes the clutches in time. The queue is down. No, it's a lie. It's not. That was the Paolo. It was hidden.
But that's such a win for Deathwalker. His ult's already up. It's a 20-second cooldown. Belair has a very, very long cooldown on that Changeling ultimate.
Adapting trying to contest his own blue there, did lose out, and at the end of the day had to use his ultimate defensively. So a bit less pressure from the jungle Adapting for the time being, although the gank on Paul on mid moments ago, he didn't need his ult, so he's still got some pressure available.
Still has purification beats as well. No blink for the Arachne, really respecting that Powwow ultimate coming from Sam or Belair in this game. I don't think Belair changed into anybody but Dodgy all last game. Really was kind of one-tricking that Changeling ultimate. He set it at level 5 and then never moved it ever again.
Is that showing that Belair's not as comfortable on this pick as you'd hope? Or is this just the game plan in general?
I think it's just he's executing the game plan. I just don't know that I agree with the game plan.
Thought Sam had overextended his welcome a little bit too much there. EmilZy gets pulled in, but the beads were consumed by adapting there in response as he was hit by one of those chains from the Darji. So beads on cooldown and ultimate on cooldown for adapting, yet still supporting Vote in the jungle here.
Neirumah ends up dashing
Neil saw
in.
him.
I don't think that's the right idea. Neil will fall to Vote's bow, and Paul in the mid lane falls to the corpses from Zyrhoes as well.
EmilZy, though, still trying to pressure with Zap, and Zap gets
come
pulled
on,
through the
EmilZy.
wall. Beads used, but the beads were after the pull anyway. Vote gets a double kill, and the Pittsburgh Knights are up 5-0 in this third game.
That Bloodforge damage, I think, caught Zapman by surprise. I guess Vote just jacked with enough gold to get Bloodforge
Is that what
right
that's
away.
about? Is just the
I
pace
assume
of it?
so. It's definitely not your best in terms of gold efficiency to your item cost, but feels really good to get that much power early on. And when you're trying to fight early, you don't want to waste your time stacking up that Devourer's gauntlets. It works out for him.
Very interesting situation, and like you said, like Bloodforge will cause a lot of problems at the moment, especially with Zapman going for boots first, so no Devourer's gauntlet stacks at the moment.
Look at this net worth charts on the left side of your screen. It is the entirety of Pittsburgh Knights. We don't sort these by color, by the way. They go by how much gold you have and have earned in this game, and it's all 5 Pittsburgh Knights before any member of SK Gaming.
I think the nervousness from the Knights is starting to wear off is what you're seeing here. The first 2 games were very respectful to SK and wanted to see what these boys would bring them. But now comfort is setting in after being a 2-0 lead. They can drop a game and not worry too much. So freedom to fight is unleashed as Excalibur's used. Belair transforms into Dodgy yet again. No beads available for adapting this time, so he gets pulled into the danger zone.
Sam has his ultimate and is going to need it right on time because the Excalibur's Wrath was coming, but Deathwalker still standing. The pull in will kill him, but Sam was right behind. Adapting gets that one, a 3-for-1 on the right side of the map.
At the same time, though, left-hand side, we did see a gold viewer go down, I believe. Is that what just happened?
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Knights got that after that fight on the left-hand side. They are controlling the entirety of the map at this point. We were really praising SK for their objective focus in Game 2.
This is my worry with a run back from SK's point of view. Why would you change it if you're Knights, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. So just do the same thing. SK have said, yeah, we'll do the same thing. But their answers have not been there. They believe that they could have won that last game if they would have changed 1 or 2 things clearly in the dynamic of the play, but it's not worked out in this game so far, and it's starting to get a little bit out of hand here at the moment. The Pyromancer not even spawned yet, and already you can feel like Knights are starting to run away with this one.
The XP doesn't look good, and it only looks like it's a level everywhere, so it's not a big deal, right? But that's a lot of collective XP you have to be ahead in order to get a level lead at every single role, and it can only grow from that position if you're going to continue to group up and play for these objectives.
And the one thing about the experience right now, though, is the level 12, and a lot of people may overlook that, but level 12 is the secondary relic coming online. If everyone on the Knights has their second relic before SK Gaming does, that is a huge opportunity to abuse that situation.
Your survivability basically doubles in a lot of situations if you're a carry because you have Aegis instead of nothing, or beads where you would have gotten CC to death in most situations. It is a big boon. And this is a fight that Zapman really can't take if Vote wants to go straight up, but Vote losing the trade early on is enough to send him packing for the moment, but I see.
The roll from Zap and the bait has worked. Vote's on his horse, the autos from Zap are good, but before he can get to the sky, the spiders and the queen of spiders herself, Arachne, will be there to clean up the kill. Nice little work from Vote there, honestly. Sometimes I've always been scared of his over-aggression, but the bait was beautiful.
That's exactly what that was. I really believe that he intentionally let himself get poked out a little bit in order to bait Zap a little bit more.
Now Sam Fasaka trying to secure the red buff, forced to use the Paolo, adapting, pulled in. No follow-up damage available, as you saw. The Earthshaker was already used by Paul there. We spoke about this Vulcan. It's still not doing much.
It is not. Second on its team in player damage, but this, to be fair to Paul, this is not the part of the game where Vulcan's supposed to be making his money.
Sure.
He's a late game god. It takes him a little bit to ramp up. Just, I don't know at this rate that SK is going to get to that point.
On the left-hand side, purple buff invaded by Knights is Deathwalker, and pressure in the blue on Belair, and Belair transforms into dodging yet again. Deathwalker will get away for the time being. Meanwhile, EmilZy was pressured with Zyrhoes under the tier 1 tower. Beats more than bargained for, but with Wisps, he will be able to regen quite satisfactorily.
And this time, instead of SK really putting pressure on solo lane and sending Deathwalker behind with these double dodge E-ults, Deathwalker's been free to farm for the most part. He's got the only death on Pittsburgh Knights, but that's still only one death in comparison to the rest of what SK has had to go through. He's got a lead on King Arthur. And anytime I say the words lead on King Arthur, the entire enemy team should really consider what they're going to do the rest of the game, because I don't think that it's going to be easy for them.
Well, I will say that trade on the left-hand side wasn't what Vote was looking for. He wasn't trying to bait there. He just got pressured out by Zapman a little bit. Devour's Gauntlet stack still being worked on by him. Bit of a change in builds for the two hunters here as well outside of the lifesteal. But hold that thought, Belair under pressure, but catches adapting with the stun. The problem after the fact is Deathwalker was there to combine with his jungler, his newest addition to the team.
Everyone talks so much, and for good reason, about the big ultimate for King Arthur, Excalibur's Wrath. It does true damage,
it the stun, right?
Takes you up. But the stun is really, really good, and Deathwalker really shows you what Sundering Strike can do in that instance. Just a quick jab that does a good amount of damage and puts you in position for adapting to easily follow up with a stun of his own. Deathwalker looks very, very comfortable.
And after that,
and that is a terrifying prospect.
Knights get the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side. Then they fall back, pick up a cheeky Pyromancer 2. And on top of that, a Fury is available. It's going to be the Oni this time. His Vote is going to get some Oracle coverage first of all. But 4 members already here from the Knights. SK should know this is going on, but they're not willing to contest.
There's no way. Zapman's up though. Maybe he can snipe it away, but great DPS stop in that position.
And now Zap versus Adapting in the duo lane. A time of old going around as Zap will roll away, but Adapting still committing, gets the pressure under the tower. No ultimate available, and there is Adapting getting himself a kill against Zapman. Meanwhile, SK, Fire Giant attempt.
This is exactly what SK need to do, a desperation attempt. Great
Oh
double
my
stun.
God,
And Paul
Deathwalker
getting crushed by Deathwalker. SK still secure it, but Paul's dead.
Zyrhoes will get the dot damage off inside, and the Paolo comes into play. Both chained in, but Zyrhoes will use the bead. Still Sam for Soccer alive and gets the kill on Deathwalker. Zyrhoes going to thread a couple of basics, but doesn't really need him with the dots. The stun damage absorbed by the Aegis, still not enough for Zyrhoes to survive. But 2 members of SK have lost the Fire Giant, and Zap was already dead.
Oh, and great pull interrupts the teleport by Belair, which would have potentially saved that tier 2 on left. Arachne's here, and Belair will not be here much longer.
The dot damage really going to stop the invisibility from being used or keeping him hidden away for now. Adapting will catch this up with the speed buff eventually. Left-hand side, meanwhile, you saw Vote take down a tier 2. So yeah, the Fire Giant goes to SK, but what does that do to the graphs? I mean, end of the day, it's still Pittsburgh Knights.
The best thing that Fire Giant does from SK is make sure that Pittsburgh Knights can't get it for 5 minutes. That's your biggest win by taking away Fire Giant from that position. It's the right idea. Go for it. Maybe you get it and kill Deathwalker and everyone lives, and then you've got a slightly higher percentage chance of coming back in this game. As it stands, it's looking rough for SK.
17 kills, 15 minutes in. Red buff is spotted for SK. They will get that one for themselves for now. Big difference in the mid lane. Look at the builds, right? Like, that's a big difference in experience and goal between Paul and Zyrhoes. Huge, actually, when you think about it.
That is a lot of damage that you're missing out on. But I guess with Zyrhoes building into some defense next, which is probably going to be a Magi's Cloak, Paul finishing off his Sphere of Desolation, he actually closes that gap pretty well from this position. It's really he doesn't have the levels, the base damage on these abilities. Vulcan in particular, you really need points in every ability in order to make them feel really good to use. His base damage at the lower end is very low, but his scaling is pretty good, so he doesn't need levels for the scaling to be affected. But it's really about that the base damage does get way, way higher towards the top end for a character like Vulcan, and every single ability needs it. Some characters like Zeus, for example, I don't really care that much about leveling my 2. I'm just going to do it because I can. Vulcan, I need points in my turret, so you have to respect its damage. I need points in my ult so I can one-shot you. I definitely need points in my 1 and my 3 in order to make my poke damage relevant. You need all of those things in order to be a full character.
Adapts on this left-hand side, feeling very confident. He knows there could be 2 players here. Sam for Soccer spotted out by Adapting, and Sam will commit to the Spider. Half health for Sam, and Sam's not enjoying that. The bleed may be enough, but the Paolo is into play, and Adapting will go to the sky. Sam on landing is going to be careful about where he goes. He'll use the minions in the jungle, but it won't be good enough to escape. Adapting gets a kill 2v1. The rest of his team sieging a Phoenix.
EmilZy gets hit by that Paul ultimate, and here comes Belair around the back looking for Vote. Finds a good stun, but Vote's beads were still up, so he's fine.
However, after the fact, the Palau comes into play, but Vote immediately used the ultimate to escape the danger level of CC control and adapt and stop the pressure on the left-hand side, so no gold for SK Gaming. However, they do hold on to their Phoenix in mid for now.
Rough moment for Sam on the left side. He goes straight down off the Palau where he should have been trying to escape and pick his route, and then he blinks because he realizes he's immediately in danger, but blinks not very far away at all. So not exactly what you're looking for, especially when you have that 2-on-1. That needs to be communicated right away that we need to fight from this position and try and leverage our man advantage. But Zapman was still too far away. He was hugging that left side wall, which is the right thing to do when you're pushing like that because it stops you from getting blinked on quite as easily from the jungle. But in that situation, it means that he can't help out his jungler.
Surprised by this build by Vote. I'm interested in this Assy, and it's not often we're going to get to say Assy, at least in this sense, because the item's going to be changing. But an Assy after a Bloodforge is quite surprising to me for the double sustain option. Yeah, sure, it gives Pen a bit of attack speed, but isn't there something like more consistent? We could do that like a Chins.
Honestly, what's the point of building Chins when everyone's so low level they don't have health? There's no, you don't get anything out of it.
It is a good point.
This is the bridge item. I don't want anything else because it'll be too expensive. It'll delay my Chins too much. Could use a little more pen. I've got so much power from Bloodforge, and I can afford to go in 0 power item as well.
Zapman, pretty lot of mana, but gets his ultimate off. Neirumah on the rotation to try and keep adapting as honest as possible. Good little combo from Neirumah following up. Sam is on the rotation too. May look for the Palau if he's got it for himself, but watch the Knights. They're already rotating around the back. The turret from Paul gave the game away, but Zapman was still pressuring with no mana, and EmilZy and Vote, they can smell the kill.
Mounted archery hits 2. Zapman's relics not going to be enough. Good pull from Zapman, or from Sam rather, to at least delay Zapman's inevitable death.
Adapting though did find Neirumah, and it's a level 18 Arachne versus a level 12 Bear around the Primal Fury. All that Neirumah's really going to be doing here is helping them to do the Primal Fury and bring the Pittsburgh Knights to it. Another objective going to the coffers of the Pittsburgh Knights.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Knights, they are pretty good. I thought about it when I said it at the end of the last game. I've been spending this time really considering what that could mean. I think this team is pretty good.
It's the game to. It's a team to chase this year, and I think everyone can agree with that. On paper, they seem strong, but if teams beat them, they will look human. I feel like, can they become immortal is the real question here. Can they do what Energy the Epsilon did once upon a time? But it's still too early to even talk about.
Absolutely, way too early. The biggest encouraging thing that I've seen from the Pittsburgh Knights is that Adapting looks like he is still so much better than everybody else on the field that what's the point of loading in?
He's got a point. He's got a point to prove this year, I feel, Adapting, and he's showing it already in this set. I mean, I don't think he even died last game, sorry.
He may not have.
And
no, he did. He died in
yeah,
mid that one fight. But his game 2 was okay. Didn't really wow me because the rest of the team was doing so much they didn't really need to do a whole lot. This game and game 1, of course, he has it's been adapting all the way, and that's what is the best side for Pittsburgh Knights.
We've had best of 1s, we've had best of 3s, a best of 5, and he still may be one side of the fair anyway. Surprising to most because I think a lot of people believe this would at least go to 4 games. A hard task for SK to try and do, but they're going to try and make it happen. There's the Magi's Cloak burnt off of Zyrhoes and the B2. Great work from Belair as a solo lane to produce that for his team. But now they need to commit on Zyrhoes another time.
But Adapting's level 20, and everyone else it seems like is level 15 or 16 on SK Gaming. That's so hard to fight against. Adapting can push this and no one can 1v1 him.
Belair's the only one here to defend, but he's not really got much up to really stop this other than just to clear the wave. So he's going to have to keep him busy as the rest of the team defend the right-hand Phoenix at the same time. Remember, all of the Knights have the Fire Giant around the waist here.
Plenty of time, and Sylvanus heals, so they can stick around for quite a little bit. Adapting right back underneath this mid-Phoenix. Sam knows he's got to go on Zyrhoes here.
Neirumah got a lot of pressure there, didn't enjoy it at all, and Zyrhoes will bring him down. The Crypt's doing the hard work as Zyrhoes does get pulled in. Sam's there for support to try and get some damage off, but Adapting does pick up the kill on Belair in the mid lane as Sam forced back to the fountain, but he doesn't get there. Adapting's blink finds it. This could be over here.
3 people dead, but Neirumah's up in 20. Mid-Phoenix still standing, but it looks like Pittsburgh Knights, they're going to head right into the Titan, but EmilZy's blinking at it.
He blinks in and looking for Paul at the back, at least Vote was, but now the focus will be on the Titan. EmilZy with the aggro needs some support. They want kills at the same time here, Pittsburgh Knight. They're having a bit of fun towards the end of this game, but 22 minutes, Ryan?
Wow. An absolute dismantling
3-0
of SK. A 3-0 victory for Pittsburgh Knights, and I'll say it, I'm pretty surprised. As good as this team is on paper, I still expected them to have a couple miscommunication issues. I expected SK to come out of the gates a little bit hotter than that. And I think SK did show that they've been working on a lot of stuff during the offseason.
Yeah.
I think that you should still be excited about this SK team. But man, it's hard to come away with anything but the Pittsburgh Knights are going to be a force to be reckoned with in Season 6.
SK Gaming definitely felt for themselves there that third game, they just made mistakes in game 2, but the Knights had an answer to everything they threw at them in that game. They knew what SK's game plan was, and they answered it with the same composition.
I really wish that I could have the statistics of how often a salty run back works, because I feel like it is never. I feel like it never ever works.
I would say it's Zapman who's involved in most of the salty runbacks.
He's always on these salty run back teams.
And it's not like he's the one calling for it. I just feel
know,
like it always seems to involve him.
It's
right?
coincidence, but it just feels, I don't know. I don't like it. You give the other team so much time to adjust. It usually, yes, you can make one mistake, and it could have changed it here, but we may have won if we didn't make that mistake. But you still gave that entire enemy team time to see what your composition does well and how to beat your composition in the end game. So why just give them the opportunity to show you what they've learned? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't like it.
Take the first game of the season. Will they take the last game of the season? We'll find out. But for now, it's time to go to the desk and break down the entire set.
I'm glad he said the entire set, because I think game number 3 didn't really give much to the imagination. Adapting is that damn good.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's just, that's still the case, man. Game number 1 and 2, I think we're much more in SK's wheelhouse, and and I think that's where I really want to focus on, because game number 3 was just up, down, left, right, Knights.
It was an early game pressure from games 1 and 2 from SK Gaming, where they had the lead, they gave up early kills, but it didn't matter because of all the invades they were getting out of it. Game number 3, those invades did not work out whatsoever. Adapting, being able to chase out Neirumah before the 1 minute mark. And when you give an Arachne first blood, before she even has her own speed buff, you know she's going to have a field day with it.
I mean, like I said, this is a character that I think that has been strong for a minute. Finally get to see somebody up here play it. You know, I really like what Weekend had to say. He's like, look, I'm a simple man. I see Adapting play Arachne, and I'm an Arachne main again. She's this good, and I think that this is something that players are going to take note of. Expect to see more of the Danger Spider in the game.
Well, the thing is, it works because of the mid laner, Zyrhoes playing Puch. A single target assassin needs AoE help somewhere along the way. Not only do you have Puch, but EmilZy playing Sylvanus was a good look for him as well. There's a lot of front line control with Deathwalker playing Arthur, and Vote is always going to be safe playing Hachiman.
SK Gaming with only 3 kills this contest. As I said, this one not as evenly matched as games number 1 and 2. You can see 14, almost 15,000 player damage. That is well above the rest of the team and the opposition for Adapting there on the Spider. So fantastic job there as the Arachne, as you noted, off of the back of what Zyrhoes was able to do.
So
from,
I wanted to bring up the stats from Adapting between 3 games. Game 1, 9-0 and 5, actually. 3-1 and 8 in game number 2. And now he ends up 9-0 and 6. He only has 1 death so far. His KDA, if I do some quick math, it's like over 25 or something like that right now.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
Wild.
You know, I was celebrating the fact that Zapman had come in kind of stronger than he was last season, and to focus on SK for a second, because I think that they deserve it in games number 1 and 2. Zapman was playing very well. Sam played well. Question mark on Paul, and I think that if you're an SK fan at home, that is perhaps the best place for the question mark to be, because I think that Paul just needs to get used to the new environment.
That could be it. I think it's an identity shift between seasons where it's more of a team-centric idea that SK Gaming are trying to implement in their style, where the invades are happening off of Neirumah, being a nuisance, trying to slow down the junglers. It worked a little bit in games number 1 and 2, did not work at all in game number 3, and I think they need to change it up in weeks number 2.
A little bit rough there for the guys on SK as game number 3 goes directly in the other direction. But Knights take the victory, and standing by, we've got 2 players to talk to. It's Deathwalker, and it's Adapting.
So much F. We're here live with Adapting and Deathwalker. Congratulations on finding your 3-0 victory today. Boys, how did this set go for you?
It went really well, obviously. They sort of came in with a different method than we were expecting, though. They were really trying to pressure all buffs early game, especially. They're trying to like get Zapman hyperfed on that Jingwei. So they were just like Neirumah on the Artio was just running around, kind of not farming as much and wasn't really leeching duo lane, and Zapman was just getting all the farm from them, and then they would just keep pressuring our buffs. We kind of foresaw this, they would keep doing this, so we just thought that we can delay till late game and we should win all team fights.
Yeah, what was your thought when you saw Neirumah just running at you, smorking you at your speed buff all 3 games in a row?
Here we go again. The world's flashbacks all over.
Deathwalker Adapting talks a little bit about the pressure in the early game. You didn't have much fun, it seems, on that Terra game there. Talk me through, like, it seems like, were you expecting any sort of pressure like this from the SK team? And how did you guys adapt? Because it looks like you did quite quickly.
Well, last time I played against him, they had 0 pressure in solo, so this was just like the complete opposite of what I expected from SK. Luckily, I did get a lot of practice with no pressure solo laners. Like, throughout most of the season, I think with Rival, I've played that, so we kind of knew how to handle that. Like, I would be calling out if we want to defend or whatnot, and Adapting and EmilZy would like always be active around the whole map, like regardless of what buff is getting invaded, especially blue buff. Like, we've been 3-4-man defending blues. Zyrhoes would sometimes rotate in as well. So like overall, I think it was really, really well communicated and just timed for well defenses as well.
First set in the books. I know you guys have been practicing and scrimming, but it's different when it comes to playing in a real setting. What was it like with the new team in your first set?
It was really good. Like the team environment's good, and I think everything kind of seemed like we were on the same page. We were listening to each other, you know, like really good comms. I'm happy with it. I think it's a good start to the team.
So we've seen the first set, you guys were involved in it. Now you get to sit down and watch a little bit of SSG up against Dignitas. Any insights on those two teams? Have you had a chance to scrim them at all? How do you think that set's going to go?
We scrimmed a bit against Dig. We haven't scrimmed against SSG any, so it's going to be hard to tell really. I am favoring Dig, but I do think like it can go either way.
Congratulations, guys. A 3-0 victory. You guys make it look pretty easy. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.